For a century, archaeologists told us the same story about Stone Age Europeans. Nomads, wanderers, people who followed the herds and took what the land gave them. No plans, no monuments, no future beyond the next meal. Then, in the autumn of 2021, a marine geologist teaching a routine training course noticed something strange on his sonar screen. A line, perfectly straight, nearly a kilometer long, sitting on the Baltic Sea floor. What he had found would force us to rewrite the first chapter of European history. The thing is, nobody was looking for ancient structures in the Bay of Mecklenburg. This stretch of the German Baltic coast was supposed to be geologically unremarkable. Shallow water, a muddy bottom, old glacial deposits. The kind of seabed you scan to teach students how their instruments work. Jacob Geersen, a marine geophysicist at the Leibniz Institute for Baltic Sea Research, had mapped hundreds of kilometers of seafloor. He knew what natural formations looked like. Eskers left by glacial rivers twist and bend. Tsunami deposits scatter chaotically. Moraine ridges run perpendicular to ancient ice flow. This line did none of those things. It ran east to west across a submerged ridge, connecting one large boulder to the next. The spacing looked deliberate. The alignment looked intentional. When Geersen showed his data to colleagues, nobody could explain it. The team began eliminating possibilities. Glacial rivers leave eskers, sinuous ridges that twist and meander. This line ran straight. Tsunamis scatter debris chaotically. They do not stack stones in rows. Ice push creates jumbled deposits, not organized walls connecting boulder to boulder with precisely fitted filling stones. Then came the question of modern origin. Could this be a failed submarine cable installation? An abandoned stone harvesting operation? The regional maritime records showed nothing. Berit Eriksson, a prehistoric archaeologist at the University of Kiel, who studies the people who arrived in northern Europe as glaciers retreated, reviewed the evidence with deepening unease. She later admitted she was the most skeptical member of the team. But one by one, the natural explanations failed. She kept coming back to a phrase archaeologists use when something defies their categories: eliminate the impossible, and whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. In 2022, the researchers returned with an autonomous underwater vehicle and a team of archaeological divers. The autonomous underwater vehicle created detailed bathymetric maps. The divers descended 21 meters to photograph what the sonar had revealed. What they documented was extraordinary. A continuous low wall, less than 1 meter tall in most places, was formed by smaller stones wedged between 288 large glacial boulders. The construction was remarkably regular over its entire length. The stones had been gathered from the surrounding area. The seabed to the north of the wall contained noticeably fewer loose rocks than areas farther away, as if something had cleared them. Using three-dimensional photogrammetry, the team built centimeter-accurate models of wall sections. The pattern was unmistakable. This was not geology. This was architecture. But architecture for what purpose? And built by whom? The answers came from looking at what the landscape used to be. 10,000 years ago, this ridge was not underwater. It stood above a freshwater lake that filled a basin 5 kilometers wide. The Baltic as we know it did not exist. Instead, the region was part of a vast lowland plain stretching from what is now Germany to Scandinavia, with lakes dotting valleys carved by retreating ice. Herds of Eurasian reindeer crossed this landscape twice each year, following migration routes their species had used for millennia, and the people who lived here knew those routes intimately. Sediment cores taken near the wall contained a peat layer that radiocarbon dated to between 10,662 and 10,494 years before present. This provided the critical constraint. The wall had to have been built when the ridge was dry land, before rising seas submerged it around 8,500 years ago. That placed its construction in the late Upper Paleolithic, between 11,700 and 9,900 years ago. The researchers named it the Blinker Wall, after a nearby underwater mound called Blinker Hill. And they proposed a startling interpretation. This was a hunting structure, a driving lane designed to funnel migrating reindeer toward the adjacent lake where hunters waited. The idea was not as speculative as it sounds. Similar structures exist around the world. In Lake Huron, underwater archaeologists have documented stone alignments used by prehistoric caribou hunters 9,000 years ago. In Jordan and Saudi Arabia, over 6,000 desert kites, stone walls that channeled gazelles toward kill zones, date back to at least 7,000 BCE. And then there is Stellmore, just north of Hamburg. In the 1930s, archaeologist Alfred Rust dug into ancient lake sediments and pulled out the remains of a slaughter. Over 20,000 reindeer bones were recovered. More than 100 pinewood arrow shafts, the oldest direct evidence of bow and arrow hunting in the world. Flint points still embedded in vertebrae. Impact fractures showing exactly where the animals were struck. The site sat at the end of a narrow valley that naturally funneled herds toward water. Hunters had not built the terrain, but they had learned to read it with lethal precision. The kills dated to the exact period the Blinker Wall was constructed. The Blinker Wall suggests these Paleolithic people went further. They did not just use the landscape, they modified it. Reindeer follow linear features instinctively. Even a low wall, barely knee-high, will channel a moving herd. The animals do not attempt to jump. They run parallel to obstacles, following the path of least resistance. A wall positioned on a ridge above a lake becomes a one-way corridor. The reindeer move along it until the terrain drops away and water blocks their escape. By then, hunters have closed the gap behind them, driving a herd over nearly a kilometer of wall, coordinating positions, timing the approach. This was not opportunistic hunting. This was infrastructure. Marcel Bratmoller, an archaeologist at the University of Rostock, who specializes in Stone Age subsistence, estimates a minimum of 10 cooperating hunters to operate such a structure. 10 people working in concert, communicating across distance, executing a shared plan. Infrastructure implies something even more profound: intergenerational knowledge. Erickson observed that if you build a structure like that, you are someone who knows the entire area extremely well. You are not just moving around an unknown landscape. You do not just hope you can find a reindeer that day. You plan. You know where the reindeer will come next year. This is the real disruption the Blinker Wall represents. For decades, we imagined Stone Age hunter-gatherers as reactive, short-term thinkers, brilliant improvisers, but incapable of the planning and coordination we associate with later agricultural societies. Monuments and megastructures were supposed to emerge only after farming created surplus, settlement, and social hierarchy. The Blinker Wall predates Stonehenge by at least 6,000 years. It was built by people with no permanent settlements, no domesticated animals except possibly dogs, and no agriculture. Yet they engineered their environment on a scale we had not believed possible for their era. Ashley Lemke, an underwater archaeologist at the University of Wisconsin who discovered similar structures in Lake Huron, was not surprised by the Blinker Wall findings. She noted that these discoveries reinforce an argument specialists have been making for years. Stone Age people were far more sophisticated than popular imagination credits. We always think of them on the brink of starvation, trying to scrape a living out of the landscape, and that is just not true. The construction itself would have been within their capabilities. No mystery technology was required. The builders used stones already present in the local environment, deposited by retreating glaciers tens of thousands of years earlier. They moved the smaller ones, most weighing under 100 kilograms, by hand or with simple levers. The largest boulders, too heavy to shift, served as anchor points. The wall grew between them, stone by stone, perhaps over generations. But questions remain. The team has not yet found artifacts at the site itself, no arrowheads, no butchering tools, and no animal remains that would confirm the hunting interpretation. They suspect such evidence lies buried in sediments surrounding the wall, and future excavations may recover it. There are also indications of a second wall running parallel to the first, still hidden beneath the seabed, which would strengthen the case for a deliberate driving lane system. Whether this structure was used continuously or seasonally, whether it was built over years or decades, and precisely which cultural group constructed it, are details that await further investigation. Some researchers have suggested a connection to the Congomose culture, which occupied southern Scandinavia between about 6,400 BCE and 5,400 BCE, though the dating makes this uncertain. What is certain is that the blinker wall changes our understanding of what was possible before civilization as we typically define it. These were not people struggling to survive at the edge of extinction. They were engineers, planners, and inheritors of accumulated knowledge stretching back generations. They read the landscape with a sophistication we are only beginning to appreciate. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson hidden under 21 meters of Baltic water. We keep underestimating our ancestors. We assume they lacked our capacities because they lacked our technologies. But intelligence does not require electricity. Planning does not require writing. And the ability to shape the world, to impose human intention on raw geography, is far older than we ever imagined. Today, the blinker wall sits in cold darkness, draped in sediment, visited only by researchers with cameras and sonar. The reindeer are gone. The lake is gone. The hunters who built this wall left no names, no texts, no monuments we can read. Just stones, arranged in a line, still holding their position after 10,000 years. The Baltic kept their secret until now. What else might be hiding beneath waters we never thought to search? What do you think?